Good morning, everyone. Today we have for you a very special recipe. When my wife and I first got together, one of the things that I was introduced to early on was Char Siu pork, or Chinese barbecue pork, which is something I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with. It's kind of a quintessential Chinese food. However, it's something that I don't tend to eat very often. It tends to use fatty cuts of pork, and the glaze is so full of sugar, you're getting tons of extra calories that we don't want. So, today I'm going to be bringing you an anabolic version where I lower the sugars so that if you use this marinade, you would actually even be able to eat some on keto. I'm also going to be using a low-fat cut of meat here that will not only work toward our goals, but help us satisfy that craving. So, let's get into the marinade. To make our anabolic Char Siu, first we're going to, of course, need some pork. I'm using pork tenderloin. We are also going to use Swerve brown sugar replacement, soy sauce, garlic powder, rice vinegar, hoisin sauce. This one happens to be very low calorie, which is why I'm using it. Oyster sauce, white pepper, Chinese 5-spice, and some red food coloring. This recipe is designed for between 1 and 1.5 pounds of pork tenderloin. Into your bag, you are first going to add 28 grams of our brown sugar replacement. Then you're going to add about 2 grams of Chinese 5-spice and another 2 grams of white pepper. You will then add 72 grams of your oyster sauce, followed by 60 grams of your hoisin sauce. So I actually forgot, we want to also add in 3 grams of the garlic powder. Then we add 80 grams of soy sauce and 50 grams of our rice vinegar. To finish out the marinade, we are going to add 10 drops of our red food coloring. Then we just have to close our bag and mix it all together. Now we're going to put our marinating pork into the refrigerator at least overnight, and I will see you when it's time to cook. And we're back. All right, so about 30 hours have passed since I set up the marinade, so we just have a couple of steps that we'll have to take, and then we'll be able to get this cooked and eaten. The first step we're gonna need there is to prepare our glaze. And for that, we just need one additional ingredient. So this is an imitation honey, and I did a bunch of searching because none of my local grocery stores had the one that you've seen Remington James use. So I was looking online, and I came across this one, and it has lower calories than all the other imitation honeys I could find, and all the calories are fiber calories. I think it's essentially honey-flavored VitaFiber. So this is a really good option to use for our anabolic Char Siu. To prepare our glaze, the first thing we need to do is put 40 grams of our imitation honey into our pot. And it'll be about this much. We're going to take all of our excess marinade and pour it into our pot, and we are going to heat it together with the imitation honey to prepare our glaze. So we carefully open our bag and pour the contents into the pot. We then heat our pot on high, stirring regularly. Now you can see after a few minutes, it's starting to steam up a bit. I'm going to lower the temperature because I don't want anything to burn quite yet. The point of heating the marinade along with the imitation honey is twofold. First of all, it kills off any bacteria that could have been in there, and it makes the glaze a little bit thicker, which is nice when you're trying to paint it on to a cooking piece of meat because it'll stick a little bit better. So everyone, I'm gonna call it done. It's been bubbling for a couple of minutes. There are actually 2 ways that I'm going to describe cooking this. The first of those methods is to use your oven. So you're going to preheat it to 425 degrees, and you are going to put a rack on a baking sheet and place your meat on top of that rack. All right, and what you're gonna do is every 5 minutes or so, you're going to baste your meat with your glaze until you have an internal temperature reached of about 150 degrees. The second way to cook this is the way that I'm actually going to do it, and that's to use a charcoal grill. And it honestly, for me, is a lot more fun. So if I have an opportunity and excuse to be able to cook over charcoal, I'm going to take it. But still, you'll always want to use a meat thermometer to be able to check the internal temperature. All right, make sure you get to 150 degrees. All right, so everyone, we're now out at the grill, and I'm just going to throw my meat on top. And we're gonna let that sit for a bit before we turn it over and then get to basting it with the brush. So after a few minutes of it being on the grill, it's now time to flip it and do our first basted on cook. We're just gonna take a basting brush and cover it. All right, so let's give it another flip. Again, make sure when you're painting on the glaze that you get all the little spaces filled in. So it's about time for us to take a temperature reading just to see where we are. So right now it's only actually reading at about 79, 80 degrees. It has a long way to go before 150. Yeah, I'm doing some jumping jacks. I was just thinking, what would Dr. Greg say to do? Jumping jack harder than last time. Even though jumping jacks is minimal cardio, and I'm only doing it in short bursts, it's still better than nothing. And anything you do is better than nothing. 108. So we still have more than 40 degrees to go. So while we're waiting here, these are the nutrition facts based on the size of meat that I have here. As long as you're between 1 pound to 1.5 pounds or so for your piece of pork tenderloin that you're using, it'll come somewhere around there as well. So here are also the calories based on a single serving, which is a third. That way you can get an idea of what you'd be looking at if you were going to be meal prepping this out. Looks like we're solidly into the 130s. We still have another 15 degrees or so. So let's check the temperature again. All right, so everyone, this is taking a while. What I'm gonna do is have a little bit of fun. This year, my wife's birthday present to me was a blowtorch. Let's give it a shot. Let's check the temp again. So 150 there, 156 there, 160. It's ready to go. Now that we have it back inside, we're just gonna tempt it with some aluminum foil. So everyone, let's briefly recap how the cooking went. When I did this before, it took about half an hour instead of the over an hour, including blowtorching time, that it took this time. So just keep that in mind if you're trying to make this. Of course, you can just stick with the oven. I'm sure that'll take a lot less time as well, and it won't be all active time where you're having to stand out there monitoring. Keep that in mind, and let's cut into our Char Siu. So let's chop off about a third and cut it into sections. Guess that means I need sharper knives. Don't worry everyone, if I'm using a sharper, better knife, I will definitely be using it on a cutting board. Now let's serve some up and eat. So everyone, after all that time cooking, I am super excited to get to dig in. So let's have some. Cheers, y'all. Honestly, the only difference between this and what you would buy at the store is this is a bit juicier, but oh my goodness. So if you look, you can even see a bit of the smoke ring. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and sticking around. If you made it this far, why have you not liked the video yet? Definitely go smash that like button and hit subscribe. We have a bunch of really cool stuff just on the horizon. I have some recipes that are really going to change a lot of the ways that we approach dieting. So make sure you're subscribed, get those notifications going so you can always see when I post that content. All right, and if you haven't yet, go follow my Instagram. I give updates about when I'm releasing new video content there as well, so you can see it in advance. Stick around, we have cutting edge anabolic content for you all. I'm going to continue to eat this, and until that next one, always remember to stay worthy.